looking into a number of things, and we're going to ask the question, and maybe by the end of this hour we'll have the answer. Whether the by-elections that we're getting into, one is happening today. We know that the polls open already. And then getting into by-election season over the next couple of days and months. We will hopefully have an answer by the end of it today. See whether it actually is a litmus test for what will happen coming into 2027. One of our guests is already here this morning. Monsieur Kakala is a lawyer and former CAS Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, and joins us in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
As we get into this conversation, we'll be joined by Dr. Martin Oloo in just a minute. He will. One of the things that we do in the Situation Room is that we go to the African continent, a different country every week. We come back with your proverbs, and then you get the delightful job of then interpreting this for us. And so we'd love to hear what your thoughts are about this. This week we are in Eswatini. And the proverb for today goes like this. I don't know where it went. Okay. It actually did. A lion that is roaring cannot hunt.
A lion that is roaring cannot hunt.
Mm.
You want my thoughts about that?
Yes, we do. We would love to hear your interpretation of it.
I think my interpretation would be that when you talk about a lion that is roaring and cannot hunt, then it means that...
or rather, a roaring lion kills no game. A roaring lion kills no game.
Of course. You attract... You must do it. Hunting must be, of course, strategic and must also be in quiet places. So when already a lion is roaring, you have already attracted attention. You have alerted the would-be victim. And of course, nature is that the natural reaction to any danger is, of course, self-defense, and what you employ self-defense, or even techniques of even hibernating from a dangerous situation. That would be my interpretation.
Interesting. I love the way the human mind works, that you can see one thing, but someone else's mind can interpret it differently. Yeah. All right, let's get into the by-elections this morning. Of course, one happening today. And we can start with the question, and I'm sure it will find itself coming out in different form later, that our by-elections are the by-elections that we are currently seeing. We saw some last year, another one earlier this year, another one happening today, more over the next couple of weeks, and then into July. Are there actually litmus tests to test the ground for what will happen in 2027?
Sure. It is safe to argue that the by-elections that are happening currently, and of course the others that will happen sometimes in June, and the others that have happened are a mirror of what will happen in 2027.
Yeah.
And of course, they provide the public with an opportunity to scrutinize the preparedness of IEBC in conducting the next general election. Of course, there are so many things that are at play. The Kenyans will be interrogating the technology that will be employed in these by-elections. We look at how IEBC will be handling the disputes that will arise during these. Of course, there will be some disputes that will always come up during elections. How they handle it. Independence of IEBC will be, of course, interrogated in terms of how independent as an institution, IEBC will conduct these elections. Whether the by-elections will be credible, free and fair, whether IEBC will be able to tame electoral malpractices that are normally associated with elections, and how they handle such situations. And of course, the most important, how the results will be transmitted, how fast and how effective the results will be transmitted. That is also very important. So Kenyans will get an opportunity to interrogate the preparedness of IEBC. You know, the Raila Odinga case, for those who are familiar with the case, that was 2017, confirmed one thing, that elections are not an event. An election is a process. So you start with the preparedness of IEBC right from not even during the election year, even prior the election year, there are processes, even like things like training of even election officials. How prepared are they? Are they conversant with the election rules and the regulations and all the laws governing an election? Is IEBC sufficiently funded to conduct the this will be demonstrated by in the manner in which this coming election will be prepared, will be conducted.
Interesting. Well, because you highlight a lot of critical and crucial issues that must be addressed conclusively in terms of preparedness, in terms of managing the entire process, for us to have a more credible outcome. Because it's the people's voice that we are seeking, for people out here looking for their presentation. Now, on the flip side, by-elections tend to attract, he spoke of the roaring lion attracting attention. So do by-elections, because there is this national attention, especially now as we are gearing up to the general election next year. So a lot of people are seeking to see the dynamics of the party politics, the dynamics of, the different political functions. Now, there is also a tendency from that attention to see a lot of things being overdone. Like the previous by-elections we had, this is last year? Last year. You saw a lot of spending from government that may not be available from the same quarters next year, because now the general election attracts a wider scope of attention. So how do these dynamics interfere in terms of now it being a litmus test for the general election that will be coming? How do the by-election, getting a lot of attention, getting a lot of political players at a certain short period of time, interfere with the outcome that generally may not be the case come 2027 when people are freely looking wider?
Yeah, it's rather obvious that a lot of attention and focus will, of course, shift to the areas where the by-elections are happening today. And by-elections normally are very tricky, and sometimes even to political analysts, they may be misleading in terms of even the political situation in the country.
Right.
We saw the other by-elections that happened whereby there was serious spending by the government. Of course, the use of public resources to mobilize support for certain candidates who are system-friendly. When it comes to a by-election, that can happen. And that happens. We expect the same will happen today.
Right.
But we are also concerned because some of these, the so-called attention is not actually attention. It's actually borders on what electoral malpractices.
Correct.
Voter bribery, use of violence, voter intimidation, and a lot of things that will happen, even access of polling stations by various candidates. Some of the candidates' access is restricted because they are not system friendly. So we hope IEBC will conduct a clean and fair by-election in this particular one, whereby they will rein in on those bent on committing these excesses. You've asked a very important question. Why sometimes the same attention is not... this is an election, a by-election is like the one which is happening is only in one parliamentary
region, area.
Electoral area. During a general election, it is everybody for himself and God for us all. So everybody is hunting. Attention is not on one particular constituency.
Yeah.
The noise is diversified. So you find that because of that, the attention of even the ability of even the state or whoever the actors who deploy these extra measures that are meant to sway the voters, they will also be concentrated. They will also have their own battles to fight.
Yeah.
So you find that general elections are a bit more reflective of the will of the people, as opposed to by-elections sometimes, and especially in the situation what we are seeing in the country lately, whereby people are ready to spend resources to the tune of 500 million in one constituency. That's massive, my friend. That's massive. That is voter bribery. And that does not reflect actually the will of the people, free will.
How do we know that these things are happening? Because it could be my word against yours or yours against mine, and that for us to then be able to hold anybody accountable, we must have hard facts. So when we're talking about if there's voter bribery going on, if there's undue influence that's happening with or without the IEBC, if this is a spotlight into what would possibly happen in 2027, seems like something you'd want to nip in the bud even before it happens. Because we say that it's indicative of what could happen in 2027, but it's not just about the results of an election that could be indicative where one party would then be able to gloat. But we're also looking at procedural matters here. That if there's voter bribery during a by-election, if there's undue influence that's taking place during a by-election, it seems like something you'd want to call out and say, excuse me, if this is happening during a by-election, then there heightens the possibility of it happening during a general election in a year's time.
Yeah, that possibility is there, and my projection is that it will happen even in the general election, because sometimes we also look at even the culture in the country that also been inculcated in our people, cultivated by us political actors, whereby we've made it our culture that you cannot participate in an election unless you are rich. And that is what is happening right now in this country. You look at even the quality of the leaders that we elect here in this country. You look at our parliament here, the Senate and the National Assembly. Look at the quality of leaders there. I pity the country because we are in a situation whereby, because of these malpractices like voter bribery that we have allowed to happen, what is happening in our National Assembly is that we are electing leaders who cannot even comprehend what happens in the Senate or the National Assembly. We have merchants. My word is that we have chosen to elect merchants. Now, to ensure this comes to an end and we have credible and free and fair elections that reflect the will of the people, is that IBC must crack the whip. It is mandated by the law. We are not going to reinvent the law. The law is very clear that, of course, voter bribery is illegal. It is all about implementation of the law by IBC and ensuring that all political actors actually obey the law as it is today.
Well, we saw just recently, Kaspool, we had a by-election, Malava, Mbere, and there were all manners of malpractice. We saw sitting MPs going to be agents and going to be mobilizers, even on the election day when already campaigns ought to have been shut down like 24, 48 hours before. But I don't think we have seen plausible pronouncements either from the court or IEBC in terms of a post-mortem and analysis of what happened and measures that need to be employed moving forward as they manage the by-election.
One of the most interesting outcomes that I'm expecting to see, and of course I don't want, as an advocate of the High Court, I don't want to comment on matters that are before court. I would also, we also what happened in Malava. It will be interesting, actually, to see what the courts will say about the violence that was experienced in Malava, about the widespread voter bribery that was experienced there, the use of state resources that was so glaring and open that, it was there for all to see. It will be very interesting, like you're saying, to see how the courts, and it is high time, actually, that the judiciary of this country takes the lead in taking decisive action whenever these cases are presented. You know, unless a matter is before court, of course, a court cannot pronounce itself on anything. So there must be litigants to a matter. And we're just hoping that because we have a one that is like a litmus test, the Malava one, we're expecting that similar cases will be given the seriousness they deserve. It is a conscious decision that the country must take, and we must tame these malpractices if we really want toward free and fair elections in this country.
Well, as we let Mr. Oloo settle, and welcome to the studio. I think there is higher essence in wanting to streamline the procedure than the results, because a lot of time we are focused on the procedure. People want this party to win, this side to lose, and some for political functions do not want to be seen to be losing ground, especially when you have an active regime. They'll go to any length to protect what you'd otherwise be called their territories. Or when a political party loses a seat, maybe by death of a member of parliament or otherwise, they still want to retain it. But then there's the will of the people, number one, which in by-elections most of the time seems to be just ran over. Because it becomes a political fight for political regimes, and then the fair representation that people need, which should be the ultimate outcome we are seeking, is overlooked ultimately. Then we have the IEBC, which is supposed to make sure that in spite of all these political dynamics, the political parties, the regimes, the formations, which by law is acceptable, the procedure needs to be foolproof. The process needs to be credible. And that is where you find a lot of Kenyans complaining that a lot of these malpractices are happening, but there is no action that is taken. Welcome, Mr. Oloo.
Thank you very much. And my apologies for arriving late. That said, procedure is important, and the courts have said so. And any person or anybody that is charged with anything ought to be sure that it has a procedure and that procedure is followed. So it's an important thing. But politics is just politics. Our politics, generally, we do not have what you may call the hygiene, so that it is the same players who complain and the same players who violate. So when political parties are violating their own constitutions, they are violating their own nomination processes, they are discriminating people, how do they then expect that IEBC would be fair to them and so on? So when they have their own rules in nomination, there's an issue. When IEBC is presiding over this, there's an issue. So I think we just need to call ourselves to some form of order and say, look, perhaps we just have to sanitize our processes, whether it's in the IEBC, whether it's in the political parties, whether it's in the National Assembly. Because as long as we are sending different messages, then law-abiding or rule of law becomes very dicey. But if we know it's wrong to bribe, look at what has been happening. Look at what happened in Malava. Look at what will happen even in all these places we're saying. People will be walking with mattresses. People will be walking with kgs of sugar. I mean, that is really not how to win or how to get power, because what we are now saying is it is at all cost, and that's bad manners. Because when you are bribing people, when you are influencing people, when you are openly showing that it's not about the result, or rather the process, you are rather interested in the result, then even any person that does not deserve to be a people's representative will make it there, and that's not the spirit. Because if somebody bribes their way, or somebody is influenced, or some people are influenced in order for them to give somebody leadership, it simply means that that's not somebody who's going to help others. He's going to have to look at himself and perhaps to say, look, you guys didn't vote for me. I bought my way here. So how we go about this, is to get back to our hygiene, sanitize how we do things, and accept what is wrong is wrong.
How do we do
How
that?
do we do
How
that?
do we do the sanitization?
This is the thing. Yeah.
Actually, just to echo what Dr. is saying, and of course, and depart a bit from his thought, whereby the argument that because political parties are also getting it wrong, then it will translate even to IBC and all political parties, and especially those that have parliamentary representation, are all funded by the exchequer.
Correct.
And that means that they owe it to the country and to the nation to ensure that they live within the law, they operate within the confines of the law, and there is no excuse to that. It is only us Kenyans who should get out and, of course, ensure that we call them out and ensure that all people respect the law irrespective of their status and, of course, regardless of who operates an institution. But now the problem is compounded when an independent institution like IBC, you look at the manner in which the current IBC was constituted. It was not quite consultative, if you ask me, in terms of we saw, of course, there is the law, there is the letter, the law as the letter is what it says, but there is also the spirit of the law when you're interpreting the law, whereby you also look at, even if the law says that you are the one who is supposed to, once the nominations are done, to make the appointments, you must ensure there is consultation among the political actors, so that the IBC that will be formed is one that has the public has confidence in it. But if the one side of the political divide feels that there was undue influence in terms of appointing the IBC commissioners,
yes,
then of course, even right from the word go, and remember we started by saying that an election is a process, not an event. Then right from the word go, people will feel that already this election is already rigged. So there must be public confidence in the referee. And remember, IBC has no choice. Like the Caesar's wife, he said that who must not only be above reproach, but must also be seen to be above reproach.
I want to say something about this referee thing and this IBC thing.
Right.
When you look at the Premier League, it does not matter who referees, because you just need to put on your jersey, whether it is the Man U jersey or Arsenal jersey, and come and play. Because
you
the
have
ref
to say Arsenal,
and the VAR. I didn't want to go there so that you don't. But yeah, the top of the league.
Yes.
VAR is somewhere to assist.
Right.
But essentially, the ref knows the rules, and everybody knows the rules.
Yeah.
So what the ref needs to do is to start the game, and people need to behave. When it is a yellow, he brings a yellow, and if it must be a red, it takes.
Yes.
So if we were to agree on what our procedures are and what our responsibilities are, I keep saying we don't even need political players to decide who is in IBC. In fact, IBC can have 3 commissioners. Yes. It does not have to have 9 because there will be never enough representation. It can be a man here, a woman there, some professional. And 3. If you look at India, the biggest democracy, how many commissioners are there?
Yes.
3.
Yeah.
And who cares about the IBC? But the rules are followed. So for me, we just need to agree that it is in our hygiene that we need to go back and sanitize, because we will never agree on whether Wakili here is fair or not. We will never agree. Yeah. But if Wakili says these are the rules, this is what I'm following, if you don't like it, I have nothing else I can do, then we'll say at least he followed the rules. But for our case, we never trust IBC. In fact, every time we finish an election, we bash IBC. Every time we do an election, we bash IBC. So we'll never get there, because we don't know what we want in a ref. But a referee should be hired by the football authority, given the rules of the game, and stick to the rules of the game.
Is IBC doing that? And I think that's the question here. That is IEBC in a position where it is above reproach, really? Because if the common citizen can look around and see the things that we're talking about, whether it's violence or whether it's purported voter bribery, and the referee of this process is kind of hanging back and just watching like everybody else, how then do you say that a free and fair and just election is going to take place? How do you do that?
I think we need to agree. The problem is not the referee. The problem is not the IBC. The problem is us and the game. So If, for example, we have said that IEBC is an independent electoral and boundaries commission, the issue of independence is not in what you call it, it's in how you behave, in how you manage yourself. So we have agreed that the IEBC is insulated by the Constitution. We have agreed that men and women who sit in IEBC ought to be fair, ought to follow the Constitution.
But how can they be? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How can they be when even in the Constitution of the IEBC, political parties, who are the players, had a say in who was going to select the commission? You can't tell me that would not be biased. In the very beginning, the selection of the people who sit here is already influenced.
Fair enough. Yeah. The issue is the Constitution and the law gives them powers to be independent. Okay? So it doesn't matter how you come. Judges are independent, okay? But there's a process to the selection of judges. There is involvement with JSC. The JSC has all sorts of people there, including some judges, including some representative of executive. No problem. But once you occupy the office, you are supposed to perform in the office as per the law and the Constitution.
I think that is the ideal situation.
Yes.
But what is the reality?
That's what I'm saying.
The reality is that as it is, IEBC, even you look at the recent by-elections that were conducted, IEBC was completely toothless. With all the powers, with all the laws to back it up, and even to allow, the IEBC has powers to rein in on this violence by political parties.
In your opinion, who has taken away that power? I agree. By law, they are well empowered.
You know what is happening in this country?
Yeah.
And this is what we must call it as it is that there is state capture of all institutions, including independent institutions like IEBC.
Yeah,
it's obvious. Remember, I don't know who was. I don't know who it was. I read in the history sometimes back, an MP was asked to substantiate a statement that he made in Parliament. He said, I cannot substantiate the obvious.
It was Martin Shikuku.
Martin Shikuku. Yeah, that was Martin Shikuku then in those days. So we can't keep on substantiating the obvious that the IEBC as it is right now.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Recently, there were calls that the CEO of IEBC should resign and cannot be in the next conducting the next general election. What happened when the pressure was mounted by political parties? That fella resigned. What does it tell you? It was that decision for that fella to resign, was it independent or was it influenced by the pressure that some political actors put for that official to exit? And what does that confirm? It confirms that actually that institution, actually by resigning, that official confirmed that he has not been independent.
So we are under siege, let's put it that way. There is state capture, let's even agree. But we have enough laws. My concern is the process, because there is the law and there is the practice. The practice, when we defy how we are supposed to practice the law, especially in this electoral cycle, or especially in this one, the ultimate cost is the loss of life. The ultimate cost is now the stalling of our economy, the disruption of our normal livelihood. And here we have an opportunity, a very divine opportunity, courtesy of the by-elections. Unfortunately, they come from deaths of our Kenyans. But we have an opportunity to streamline our procedure and our process so that as we build up 64 weeks, we are going to vote in a new regime. That's what Kenyans, we have that constitutional opportunity. So we have this time as we approach these by-elections today. I think in July, there is another one coming up. If we do not pay attention to the process, bearing in mind that there is perpetual loss of life, disruption of life, of our livelihoods, and the disruption of the economy, isn't it a disservice to the country? And when we say we need to sanitize, we are under siege and state capture, who needs to do what so that we can unlock the country?
You know, there's something we need to agree.
Yes.
Freedom of the press is not something that is given, is guaranteed by the Constitution. Does the press have a choice? Does the Standard have a choice to be bold and free? It has a choice. what happens if it chooses not to exercise that freedom? It means that it has made a choice to be subservient.
Yes.
So what we are saying is that we do know there are laws, and we know that there are independent institutions. The independence is not in the name, it's in the people who hold the office. So if you want to be an independent person in IEBC, you can be. Are there consequences? Obviously there are consequences. Do you want to stand by that? If you want to do that, that is okay. What we also want to agree that we are living in a country and in a world now where institutions are under siege. Whether you are looking at it from the US, and you're looking at the biggest democracy, and you're looking at the redistribution of districts, and you're looking at gerrymandering, and you're looking at people wanting to win over everything. That is not unique to them. It's also present here. Our politicians know so well that politics is about life and death, and they will try everything, including the by-elections, as we'll see. In fact, the by-elections is the worst place to even measure any quality of IEBC, because every force is there. He was saying earlier on that, the IEBC stands there toothless. Yes, they don't command the police, and they don't have to command the police. The police are under somebody else's command. And what is their interest? They'll take the interest of whoever is commanding them. Are they interested in what IEBC is saying? No. If they were, then they would be in that situation. So all I'm saying, we need to accept what our reality is. This country will grow, or this country will change, because we make the choice as Kenyans.
We the people.
We the people. It's not about our politicians. Our politicians have their interests, and they must always push for their interests. But we as the people also must have our interests. And if we do, we must guard it. I mean, if it's wrong, we tell Wakili it's wrong. But if you say, if it's Wakili, he's one of us, so I can even say that since he's also an advocate. No, the point is that if it's wrong, it's wrong. And so Kenyans need to decide what they want to stand by. At the end of the day, this country will change because the Kenyans decide that it changes, but not our politicians.
To add what Dr. is saying, you saw when the Gen Zs, and if there is anything that one of the best things that ever, and that is why I represent them free of charge, by the way. Pro bono, I give them pro bono services. Never they are arrested in their demonstrations, because unless there is that awakening by the citizens, of course this country will never change. You saw when they realized that our elected representatives, the parliament is under state capture, they decided, because the law is very clear in the constitution, is that the sovereign power belongs to the people. So they decided to go and invent parliament and represent themselves. The message, that was the message, that we donated that power to you to represent us, and because we, from the look of things, we are not doing the right thing, and you are not representing us properly as it should be, we have decided to recall that power. Although the method, we may say that, okay, the method was not completely acceptable, but the message was clear, that you no longer represent our interest. So unless citizen awakening is the most important thing, and we need to conduct serious civic education to our people, so that they understand that they are actually the bosses. The problem with Kenyans, you'll find, I'll give you an example, you'll find I really get mad when I go to the village and I find our mothers and sisters celebrating MPs because they have come to give bursary. And you really wonder at this age.
But that's how we are.
No, we may be like that, but I want to be very optimistic and say that's how it has been, because I want to believe in a renaissance. There has to be a new change. There has to be a new beginning. We cannot run down our own country. I look back and see, for example, the by-election that happened in Mbeere North. Shy of $1 billion or $500 million, depending on how you want to look at it, was spent campaigning for that one political position. Today you go back to Mbeere North.
Do you know why they did that?
Kindly.
There is a saying that sometimes when you look at numbers and look at statistics, on the face value of when you look at an issue, may not communicate a lot. Just like a bikini, what it can expose is suggestive, but can conceal a lot. The reason why they spend over $1 billion, almost close to $1 billion or thereabout, was just to send that message that we are winning, and like you're saying, the by-elections are like a litmus test of what will Ariaso of 2027. It was not even about the candidate who won. I'm sure even those who are putting in their resources, they didn't care about the candidate. They didn't even know the candidate quite well. I'm sure even right now, they don't. Do you hear about him? No. Whoever was elected.
No,
they don't. They don't care. It was about the optics. The perception that we still the party to beat and we can still win, like UDA to prove that they can win in Kwamulima, and they to get it through hook or crook.
So what you're saying now is that this is, and that's what I go back to, and perhaps if that is the attention, 2027 will be a furtherance of a display of the spending of money and the violence that we saw, and another IEBC sitting and watching these things happening.
Unless decisive action
is that what we're saying?
Yes, unless there is some decisive action to curb these malpractices. Yes. I can confirm that one. Because in fact, 2027, some of us can dare say, and this is my focus as an individual, that it will be so, and especially the presidential vote, will be very hotly contested. I'm seeing a situation whereby even people will dispute results.
That has happened.
If they lose, not the manner in which we see. I don't want to be a prophet of doom. But I can even focus a situation whereby I think even when politicians, they may even agree to share the spoils in 2027, looking at even after the outcomes. But we may have a government of national unity. I don't see, my focus is that because of the money that will be spent and the violence that will be meted out during the general election, I don't think there will be a problem.
Then this raises a very critical question. Since we, the people, hold the power, we, the people, are the ones who are going to vote. If we choose to vote for Oloo and give him 16 million votes, for example, and you as number 2, you get 3 million votes, there'll be no contesting the results.
Of course.
So what is the role of the people? In North, you said clearly, the people had no choice. You know, it was the 2 elephants fighting, the grass suffered as they continue to. Because the almost billion that was spent is less than the money they are going to receive, in this remaining term of the regime before they vote another new MP. So now, going back to the people, because everybody is saying that we have to sanitize the election, we have to take action, we have to be deliberate. So we, the people, what do we do? Because we can save the situation.
I think we have a role to play as the people. We have to vote. We have to register and we have to vote.
Right.
Let us vote. I don't want to be a prophet of doom because I know that in this country in 2002, when KANU was very powerful and Moi was very powerful, Kenyans united to deny the president Moi then to succeed himself.
Yes.
I also know that Kenyans can actually unite to succeed, to make sure that President Ruto does not force his way back. That's the point. They can elect him, but they will make sure that he does not force his way back. But the key issue that I want to talk about when you talk about billions is to immediately contrast it with the allocation to students the other day of 90 shillings.
Yes.
That we can put 90 shillings in education but fund a by-election to the tune of 500 million. That is how warped our priorities are. And that is the problem. That it's anything at all costs for us to retain or to access power. Now, that's not the point. The point is Kenyans require services. Kenyans require a government that works for them. And the elections are not the only way for one to prove that there's a government that works. It is a service delivery, the allocation of resources, and how these resources percolate to the people. So we should be looking for that. The only reason why we need leaders is also that leaders can mediate or can actually help us access services, resources, and so on. Not so that they can go and load it on us or enrich themselves. So we have a point at which we need to come back and ask, in 2027, what are we looking for? There are those who are looking for a government that works for them. There are those who are looking for a government that will continue to oppress them. Now, the choices are two. Do you want a government that works for you, or you want a government that oppresses you? Do you want a government that prioritizes non-issues, as far as I'm concerned, or a government that prioritizes the issues that bother, our ordinary Kenyans? So the choices are obvious, and Kenyans have to make that choice.
Well.
Yeah, we have to bite the bullet, and as Dr. is saying, Kenya is a representative democracy, whereby, and they say politics is the art of subdividing what to who, how, and when.
Yes.
So actually, it is through the political system that we are governed, and in terms of the development that we are talking about, and in terms of the policies and programs that any government that, of course, runs, they are courtesy of as a result of a political, a political process, and you get power through that political process. I think what we as Kenyans should do right now, and that is what the Gen Zs were saying. They are saying that we are not going to condone the old order. You remember they had one clarion call that we are going to drain the swamp.
Yes.
Unless we get the quality leaders, quality representation, we elect quality leaders. We do away with the issue of you elect somebody because you've been bribed to elect that particular person. I think it is high time we teach politicians a lesson. I, being one of them, I will be running for the senatorial seat in Machakos County.
All the best.
I ran in 2017.
So we should teach you a lesson.
We start right here.
Lost by 1,000.
Will you buy your way in? Will you bribe?
No, I didn't. And that's why I think I lost narrowly by 1,800 votes.
Right.
Or 2,000 thereabout. The point is that unless we drain the swamp and get quality leaders, we are going to have this recycling of garbage. We need proper representation, leaders who know that how many times have you seen elected MPs going to the president and telling the president, tunataka barabara ya hapa kwetu.
Yeah.
And they are the same fellas who allocate resources
in parliament.
Then you wonder the irony. So if we are in such a country, really, when we have leaders who go to kneel before an head of state, who should actually be at their mercy in terms of deciding priorities of projects.
Akili, unfortunately, this level of illiteracy is not unique to Kenyans. I have seen a professor in politics behaving like just what you are saying. The fellow who knows what the law is and behaving there saying we must be close to the government. I mean, it does not make sense because you see, in this country, for example, who is and who is not in government, the system in this country is that all of us are in government, and that's why you have minority and majority. So there's no opposition. So when you start saying that we must be in government, there's a misunderstanding of the country and the nation you're talking about and the constitution you're talking about. We are all Kenyans. And that's why the other day when the president was calling some Kenyans this, we remind them, no, all those voters, they are Kenyans. They might be thick, fat, whatnot, but they're Kenyans. So at the end of the day, and I wish you well as you go to politics, let us understand that it is not about the people in politics. It's not about the leaders or those who are, it's about the Kenyans. What is really good for the Kenyans and what do we desire? Of course, we have given ourselves a very good constitution.
Yes.
Why is it not working? It's because of our nature of politics. There's something that we will not solve now. I know you asked for it. It's not even 2027 will not solve it. For us, the Renaissance we're talking about will take a real reawakening. The kind of stuff that the Gen Zs were actually giving us before we stole it. And we stole it because we were asking things like, oh, so you remove it and then what happens? Oh, no. I mean, it's like when you say that maybe the manner they used to enter parliament is wrong. No, what other manner is there? There's nothing. You get on, you take power, you take power.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we have to agree that we will have to reset. We'll have to orient ourselves in order for us to actually be what we are. And if you look at it, we were somewhere. When we were fighting against the Mama, when you did not like the colonialists, we agreed, we were clear, this was the enemy. Today, I don't know whether we are clear who the enemy is. Because apparently, the people that call themselves our representatives and our government could be the real enemy that we have. And we must agree on how to actually not get an enemy into power, because what we have seen, they come in the name of hustler, they come in the name of change, they come in the name, But what do they really represent? Not
I almost
us.
hear you saying that you have to use the mechanisms that you have in place to take this power and to turn things on their head almost by force if you want to see a kind of change, because the fence sitting doesn't work, the coddling doesn't work, the pampering and hoping somebody does the job doesn't work. If you don't force a situation, it won't work. Is that what you're saying?
Any student of history will tell you change has never happened because people sat on a table, sat in there. Change happens because people take action. And it happens because people are furious about that they don't like. And I don't know any change that can come without any tension and without any friction. In other words, in order for us to move from where we are, we have to be very deliberate. I'm not saying we have to be violent,
we have to
but
move.
we have to be very deliberate. We have to agree. We have to change.
And
When you
even
look at
peace
this,
itself
the French
comes-
Revolution, when you look at the reason why America was created, some people were disenchanted and decided to move out of Europe, to move out of Britain. So there is always a movement that has to accompany a change.
So, and as we sit here today, are we confident, or at least warming up to the fact that maybe Kenyans are bold enough to say, yes, we need to take action. Yes, we need to move. And can we perhaps start seeing that in the by-elections? Or it's the 2027?
By-election is
the
too
main-
optimistic,
the main
but
election?
ask Macron. Ask Macron. Did
Yes.
he see it or did he not see it?
Yeah, you saw it. By elections are a bit tricky.
Yeah.
To give a clear picture of what may happen in. But I want to predict one thing here, that this coming, I want Kenyans to remain optimistic. This coming general elections, Kenyans and especially the Gen Zs will put their foot down, and you will see. We may not see a complete overhaul of the
swamp, the draining of the swamp.
the draining of the swamp, but quite a substantial bit of it will be achieved. And what I can say, contrary to what very many people think, that the next election will be rigged, I can confidently predict here that it will be impossible to rig the next general election. In fact, if anybody loves this country, let them not attempt. Because already Kenyans know what they want. And they have already made up their mind. Any attempt to interfere with that will of the people, let
me promise you, there will be attempts to interfere. There will be. So it's not any, there will be. So what Kenyans need to do is to be vigilant, to decide. I mean, the reason why anybody going into politics must plan, must have a legal team, must have agents, must have all sorts of preparations, is because the game is never without foul play. Even football is never without foul play. So one has to be ready.
Right, and there will look. I think that sometimes we have conversations, and the thought is that you should be positive, and that you should be optimistic, that things will be good. But then, in the same conversation, we're hearing what you're saying, that in order to achieve a particular kind of change that is not just notable, but that is practiced, that you will have an uncomfortable situation. There will be friction. It's just the way it is, that you can't accept to massage the donkey down the hill to expect that that's the way you're going to get change. I'm going to give an example. In the last, flurry of by-elections, one of the rules that the IEBC gave was that once you vote, you go home. We don't need you around here causing unnecessary tension. It's interesting that we had IEBC commissioners themselves at polling stations. Magarini, Berenorth, Malava, they were there. So if you have situations where an example cannot be led by, the example that you give, you cannot lead by it, then there's a problem. And it seems as though everything needs an overturning in order to achieve the change. Everything.
And why do you want people to vote and go home? Because you don't want to be transparent. Yeah. I mean, if you are transparent and there was a crowd there, what fear do you have? What fear do you have? But you see, Kenyans will tell you in 2027, they will vote and stay around the polling station. That one I can tell you, to guard the vote. Because
clear
they don't trust it.
That actually the election is at the polling station.
Yes.
Is at the polling station. That is where it all matters. So if you are telling people to get out of polling station,
what is your intention?
And already it is settled law in Kenya that
it's final.
That's
the results is final at the polling station.
Yeah.
What is declared by the RO at the polling station is final. Yeah. You don't even need to go to a nice hotel somewhere for an NTC.
Yes.
And therein is the problem. Who actually declares the elections at a polling station?
The returning officer.
No, it's called the presiding officer.
Presiding officer, yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about a presiding officer is that officer is not an employee of IEBC.
Yes.
He's a casual.
Yes. Almost a volunteer.
He's some character.
Yes. If not that he's earning some stipend.
Some may have jobs, may not have jobs. You know, actually, this is the irony, that where are we investing? You know, we talk about commissioners, we talk about... The commissioners... Even if they ought to be in a polling in a constituency, they can hardly be in more than one polling station
at a time.
And one polling station has how many? Whatever. Streams. So many. So the point is, we actually need to rethink about our electoral laws, and we need to think on how we conduct elections, because right now we blame IEBC, but what the people who really make the decisions, those who will make that announcement at a polling station, are not IEBC employees. But that is not the issue. You can't say that they must have employees all the way up to that point. We must rethink that law and rethink how best
my learned colleague will appreciate the moment they are contracted.
They become part of
their responsibility. The minute you earn, you draw some kind of payment.
That's the theory. That's the theory. The practice is that who is responsible? Whoever is going to be sued is not. In fact, it's usually the returning officer there. And,
it's the returning officer that might be sued, and not the presiding officer.
But not these other fellows.
All right.
So, but if the pronouncement now officially happens at the polling station, then the presiding officer is the person in charge. Arguably so.
What I'm saying is that because of the nature of how we do our elections, there are still so many gaps that we need to actually take care of. Because at the end of the day, we're saying a polling station is the most important thing, but what is the law and what's the accompanying
surrounding this particular polling station? And those are things that need to be taken into consideration. There's a lot of work still needs to be done. And unfortunately, the body is in place, and these processes are already taking place. So the eternal vigilance of Kenyans is what is being called on in these spaces. And at the very least, that cannot be curtailed. Thank you, both of you, for being here with us this morning. This is a conversation that doesn't end. It continues, but we started it off today. Dr. Martin Oloo, thank you so much. Monsieur Kakala, Asante. Maybe the Senate will see you 2027.
Any guest there he behaves badly, will sanction him.
Asante Sana, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.